Have you ever felt your pet's presence, even after they were gone? What if it wasn't just your imagination? Could our furry friends really be waiting for us in heaven? Discover the comforting truth behind a timeless question. What if your pet's love is a reflection of something divine, something eternal? Let's explore the soul-deep connection between animals and God's plan. One day, they're wagging their tail, purring in your lap always. They're woven into the fabric of your life, and then suddenly they're gone. The house feels emptier. Their favorite spot by the window remains untouched. No tiny paws trailing behind you. From room to room. No eager greetings at the door. It's a silence that settles deep into your soul. But is that really the end? Or is there something more? If you've ever lost a pet, you know the heartbreak. The gut-wrenching pain of losing a presence. That felt irreplaceable. They weren't just an animal, they were family. They understood you in ways no words ever could. They celebrated your best days with wagging tails and excited barks, and on your worst days, they didn't need to ask what was wrong. They just curled up beside you. Their quiet presence speaking louder than words ever could. That bond is real, unbreakable. But when they take their last breath, where do they go? Do they simply disappear? Or is there a part of them that still exists? Somewhere beyond what we can see is a question that lingers in the hearts of so many who grieved animals have souls. Do they wait for us somewhere? Or is it just wishful thinking to believe we'll see them again? The concept of a soul is deeply rooted in our faith, in our understanding of life itself. But does it extend to them they love? They feel their loyalty often surpasses that of humans. But does that mean they have an eternal spirit? Maybe you felt it before that moment when your pet gazed into your eyes and you just knew it was more than an animal. Looking back, there was something there, something real. Maybe even after they were gone, you've sensed their presence like they never truly left. Is that just grief playing tricks on us? Or could it be something more? Some say animals are different, that they don't have the same kind of soul. Humans do that when they die. They simply cease to exist. But if that's true, why do we feel such a deep, almost spiritual connection with them? Why do they seem to understand us in ways we can't explain? Why do some sense danger before it comes? Why do they always seem to know exactly when we need comfort, as if they were sent to us for that very reason? And then there's the question of heaven. If heaven is a place of perfect joy or love beyond what we can imagine, how could it not include the very creatures who brought us so much love here on earth? Would a loving God create animals, give them the ability to bond with us so deeply only for them to vanish into nothingness? Or was there always a greater plan? Maybe you've never thought about it this way before, or maybe you've always wondered, but never had an answer. Either way, what we're about to explore might just change the way you see your pet and their place in eternity forever. Because the truth is, this question isn't just about animals. It's about something much bigger. It's about understanding the depth of God's love, the beauty of His creation, and what it really means to believe in something beyond this life. So let's talk about it. Because if you've ever loved a pet, if you've ever felt that unspoken bond, then this question isn't just theoretical, it's personal. And the answer, well, it might just bring you more comfort than you ever expected. There's something special about the way a pet becomes part of your life. They're not just animals, they're family. They don't care about your job, your status, or how much money you have. They love you simply because you're you, and that love, it's unconditional. No judgment, no expectations, just pure, unwavering companionship. Think about the moments they've been there for you, the times when the world felt too heavy, when no one else seemed to understand, but there they were curling up beside you, resting their head on your lap, sitting in silence as if to say, I know I'm here. You didn't have to explain your pain. You didn't have to say a single word somehow. They just knew, and in that quiet presence there was comfort. And it's not just in times of sadness. They celebrate with you too. They wag their tail when you walk through the door. Even if you were only gone for 5 minutes, they jump up and down when they sense your excitement. They chase you around, nudging you to play, reminding you to laugh, to live in the moment. Their joy is contagious, their love endless. But have you ever wondered how they seem to understand emotions in a way that even some people don't? Science says animals can sense subtle changes in body language, tone, even scent. But is it just that? Or is there something deeper? There are stories of dogs detecting cancer before any medical test could confirm it, of cats refusing to leave the side of someone who is sick, as if they can feel their pain horses calming. Anxious riders sensing their fear before a word is spoken. How do they do that? Is it just instinct, or could it be something more, something that connects us on a level we can't fully explain? And then there's the way pets respond to loss. When another animal in the home passes away, they grieve, they search, they wait, they hope, some even refuse to eat, as if mourning the absence of their friend. And it's not just with other animals. There are countless stories of pets sitting by the door, waiting for an owner who will never return. Some lie beside their owner's grave, refusing to leave. That kind of devotion and that depth of loyalty. How can that be mere instinct? Maybe you've witnessed it yourself. Maybe you've had a pet who seemed to understand your emotions, who stayed close when you needed comfort the most. Maybe you've looked into their eyes and seen something more, something real, something deeper than just an automatic response. If you've ever lost a pet, you know the hollow space they leave behind. Their absence is more than noticeable. It's felt. The house seems different. The rhythm of your days, the feeding, the walks, the sound of tiny footsteps following you suddenly vanishes, and that's when it hits you. They weren't just part of your life. They were woven into it. That's why the question of what happens to them after they die matters so much, because if they could love, if they could feel, if they could form a bond so unshakable, then could it really just end? Could it be that our connection with them was never just physical, never just fleeting? Maybe they were never meant to be just animals. Maybe they were something more, companions, reflections, of love, reminders of something greater. Maybe the way they love us so purely is a glimpse of a love that never fail, AES, never end. Many assume the Bible is silent about what happens to animals after death. They believe that because Scripture focuses on humanity's relationship with God, animals must not hold a place in eternity. But is that really the case? Or have we simply overlooked the deeper meaning woven into certain verses from the very beginning? The Bible paints a picture of God's deep care for his creation, not just humans, but animals. As well, in Genesis, we see that God created every living creature and called them good. He didn't just make them as an afterthought. They were part of his design, his masterpiece, when he instructed Noah to build the ark. He didn't tell him to save only people. He specifically commanded that animals be brought in 2 by 2, preserving them just as he preserved humanity. That alone tells us something profound. Psalm 5:10 declares, "For every beast of the forest is mine, the cattle on 1,000 hills. I know every bird of the mountains, and everything that moves in the field is mine." If God claims ownership over every living creature, doesn't that suggest a level of care far beyond what we often assume? If he sees them, knows them, and provides for them, could it be that he also has a plan for them? Beyond this life, why would heaven include animals if they weren't meant to be part of God's eternal plan? But then comes the question of souls. Do animals have souls? And if they do, are they the same as human souls? The Bible makes it clear that humans were uniquely created in God's image. Genesis 2:7 states that God breathed life into Adam, making him a living being. This sets humanity apart in terms of spiritual responsibility and the ability to have a direct relationship with God. However, the Hebrew word nephes, often translated as soul or living being, is also used to describe animals. This suggests that while animals may not have the same eternal nature as humans, they do possess something beyond mere biological existence. They have life, breath, and even emotions. So where does that leave us? The Bible may not provide a definitive answer about whether pets go to heaven, but it does offer clues. It portrays the God who cares for animals, includes them in his plans, and describes a future where they exist in peace and beauty. It reminds us that God's love extends to all creation, not just humans. If he is as loving and merciful as we know him to be, is it so hard to believe that he might allow the creatures who brought us so much joy to be with us? Once again, maybe the question isn't whether animals have souls like humans, but rather whether God's love for them extends beyond this life. And if he loves them, wouldn't that mean he has a purpose for them that goes beyond what we can see? This is the question so many grieving pet owners ask: do animals go to heaven? Some believe that when an animal dies, its existence simply ends. No afterlife, no eternity, just nothingness. But others hold firm to the belief that their beloved pets are waiting for them beyond this life. So who's right? Is there any real biblical or theological evidence to provide an answer throughout history? Christian scholars and theologians have wrestled with this question. C.S. Lewis, one of the greatest Christian thinkers of all time, believed that animals could indeed be present in eternity, especially those who had bonded with humans, he suggested that because animals exist in relationship with people, they could be drawn into heaven through that connection, much like humanity is drawn into eternity through our relationship with God. Other theologians, such as St. Thomas Aquinas, belied that while animals possess a soul, nephesh, it is not the same as a human soul, meaning they do not share the same eternal destiny. However, even Aquinas acknowledged that God could restore animals in the afterlife if he so will. After all, he is not limited by our understanding of life and eternity. One of the most compelling arguments comes from the idea of a new heaven and a new earth. As described in Revelation 21:01, Scripture tells us that God will create a renewed world free from suffering, pain, and death. If heaven is not merely a spiritual realm, but a restored, perfected version of creation, wouldn't that include animals? After all, they were part of God's original design in Eden before sin entered the world. The Garden of Eden was filled with animals living in harmony. If God is restoring all things, why wouldn't animals be included? The prophet Isaiah also provides a vision of this peaceful new world, where wolves and lambs live together and lions eat straw like oxen. This isn't just poetic imagery. It's a picture of what's to come. A world where all creation is renewed, where the brokenness of sin no longer separates humans from animals or animals from their creator. Then there are the countless stories of near-death experiences, people claiming to have glimpsed the afterlife and seen their beloved pets waiting for them. While these experiences aren't scripture, their consistency is striking many. Describe lush landscapes, overwhelming peace, and the familiar presence of the animals they lost. Could they simply be hallucinations? Or could they be glimpses of what truth truly awaits? Billy Graham, one of the most respected Christian leaders of our time, once said that if having pets in heaven would bring us greater joy, then surely God in his infinite love would allow it. Heaven, after all, is a place of complete joy, a place where every longing of the heart is fulfilled. If the love we share with our pets is real, and anyone who has ever loved an animal knows it, why wouldn't God allow that love to continue? There is also the undeniable truth that God's love for animals is evident throughout Scripture. Not only did he create them with care, but he ensured they were rescued from the flood, commanded they be treated with kindness, and even spoke of his awareness of every sparrow that falls. If God is so deeply connected to his creation, it's difficult to imagine him allowing it to simply vanish without a trace. Ultimately, the question of whether animals go to heaven is one we may not fully understand on this side of eternity, but when we consider God's character, his love, his mercy, his desire to restore all things, it becomes easier to believe that the pets we have cherished in this life might not be lost forever. Maybe they are waiting. Maybe heaven is even more beautiful than we ever imagined, filled not just with people, but with the creatures that made our lives on earth so much richer. And if that is the case, then perhaps the last time we held them wasn't truly the last. Perhaps one day we will see them again, running, wagging, purring, whole and happy, just as God always intended them to be. Have you ever wondered why God created animals not just as part of nature, not just for food or work, but as intricate pieces of the human experience? Every creature has a purpose, and when we stop to see them not just as part of the world, but as something intentionally designed, we begin to recognize that they reflect something greater from the beginning. Animals were part of God's creation before sin, before pain. Before the brokenness of the world, animals lived in harmony with humanity in the Garden of Eden. They were not an afterthought. They were part of God's masterpiece, created for a reason. But what was that reason? Yes, animals play a role in the ecosystem. Some provide food, some maintain balance in nature, and some serve as helpers to mankind. But if we stop there, we miss something deeper. Animals don't just exist for function. They exist to reveal something about the heart of God. Look at the way a dog loves its owner completely, unconditionally, without concern for mistakes or flaws. That kind of loyalty is rare, even among people. A dog doesn't care about your wealth, success, or appearance to them. You are enough. That's a glimpse of the love God has for us, unwavering, constant, undeserved, yet freely given. Look at the way a mother bird protects her young, covering them with her wings, shielding them from danger. It's no coincidence that the Bible uses this same imagery to describe God's protection over us. Psalm 91:4 says, "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge," the instinct of a mother animal to care for her young reflects God's deep care for his children. Even the smallest creatures like ants and bees teach us about diligence, teamwork, and purpose. Proverbs 6:6 tells us to look at the ant and learn from its ways, how it works, how it plans, how it remains dedicated. Animals move in perfect rhythm with their purpose, never questioning, never hesitating. In a way, they model a kind of faith, a trust in their Creator's design, a willingness to simply be what they were meant to be. Then there is the wildness of creation, the roar of a lion, the soaring of an eagle, the vastness of the ocean, teeming with life beyond comprehension. It all speaks to the power and majesty of God. Romans 1:20 tells us that God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature are clearly seen in creation. Animals are not just part of the world, they are reflections of the one who made it. Nature reveals God's presence, and animals are among the clearest reflections of his creativity, wisdom, and boundless love. But beyond their beauty and purpose, animals teach us something profound: how to love unconditionally. A cat curling up in your lap after a long day, a horse pressing its head against mountains, your chest in silent understanding, a dog waiting by the door just for the chance to be with you. These are not meaningless moments. They are reminders that love doesn't have to be complicated or earned. It simply exists in a world where love often comes with conditions where people leave and relationships break under the weight of mistakes. Animals show us a different way. They love completely, forgive instantly, and remain by our side no matter what. In their love, we catch a glimpse of something divine. So why did God create animals? Maybe it wasn't just for survival. Maybe it wasn't just for function. Maybe he gave them to us as a gift, a way to understand love, loyalty, and faithfulness in their purest forms. Perhaps he placed them in our lives as reminders of his presence, his kindness, and his desire for us to experience joy and companionship. And maybe, just maybe, the love we feel for them and the love they give in return is meant to point us back to something even greater: the endless, unconditional love of the one who created them in the first place. Have you ever wondered why God created animals not just as part of nature, not just for food or labor, but why he placed them in our lives so intricate, woven into the human experience? Every creature has a purpose, and when we truly take the time to look at them not just as part of the world, but as intentional designs, we begin to see that they reflect something far greater from the very beginning. Animals were a part of God's creation before sin, before pain, before the brokenness of the world. Animals lived in harmony with humanity in the Garden of Eden. They weren't an afterthought. They were part of God's masterpiece, created with intention. Yes, animals serve a role in the ecosystem. Some provide food, some maintain balance in nature, and some serve as helpers to mankind. But if we stop there, we miss something deeper. Animals don't just exist for function. They exist to reveal something about the heart of God. Look at the way a dog loves its owner completely and unconditionally, with no regard for past mistakes or flaws. That kind of loyalty is rare. Even among people, a dog doesn't care what you look like, how much money you have, or how successful you are to them. You are enough. That is a reflection of the kind of love God has for us. Unwavering, constant, undeserved, yet freely given. Look at how a mother bird shields her young, wrapping them beneath her wings, protecting them from harm. It's no coincidence that Scripture uses this same imagery to describe God's protection over us. Psalm 9:14 says, "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge." The instinct of a mother animal to nurture and defend her young is a reflection of God's deep, unwavering love for his children, even the smallest creature. Ants, bees teach us profound lessons about diligence, unity, and purpose. Proverbs 66 urges us to observe the ant, to learn from its ways, to see how it works tirelessly, how it plans ahead, how it remains committed to its purpose. Animals move in perfect harmony, fulfilling their God-given roles without hesitation. In a way, they embody a quiet faith, a trust in their Creator's design, a willingness to be exactly what they were made to be. Then there is the wild, untamed beauty of creation, the roar of a lion, the flight of an eagle, the vast, unknowable depths of the ocean, teeming with life beyond comprehension. Every creature, every movement, every sound declares the power and majesty of God. Romans 1:20 tells us that his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, are revealed through what he has made. That includes animals. They are living expressions of his creativity, his wisdom, and his is limitless. But beyond all of that, animals teach us how to love unconditionally. A cat curling up in your lap after a long day, A horse pressing its head against your chest, in quiet, understanding a dog waiting patiently at the door, simply for the joy of seeing. These moments aren't trivial. They are quiet reminders that love doesn't have to be complicated or earned. It can simply be in a world where love is often conditional, where people drift apart, where relationships fracture under the weight of mistakes. Animals show us a different way. They love without hesitation, forgive without question, and remain steadfastly by our side. And in their love, we glimpse something sacred. So why did God create animals? Maybe it wasn't just for survival. Maybe it wasn't just for function. Maybe he gave them to us as a gift, a way to experience love, loyalty, and faithfulness in their purest forms. Maybe he placed them in our lives as reminders of his presence, his kindness, and his desire for us to know companionship and joy. And maybe, just maybe, the love we share with them and the love they return is meant to point us back to something even greater, the infinite, unconditional love of the one who aided them in the first place. At the end of the day, the most powerful bond we experience with our pets is love, pure, unconditional, and deeply spiritual. These creatures walk beside us, teach us compassion, loyalty, and even grief. But their purpose doesn't end when they leave us. Many believe, and find comfort in the thought, that our beloved pets have souls created by the same loving God who formed us. And if God treasures every sparrow, how much more does he care for the companions who bring joy into our lives? Let this be your comfort. Your pet's story may not be over. It might just be continuing in a realm of peace beyond our sight.